Okay, we're going to start on the new parak, which is Mem Tes Amud Beis, the new parak, chapter 7. Wow, isn't that interesting? 7 times 7. That means every parak over here was 7 blocks. No, it's not, because we're starting
almost.
Okay. Goes like this. Arba Nisais Nimsril Lebestin. 4 death penalties that are given over to the court. What are the 4? Skila straight for Herrick Bechenek. Stoning, burning, death by the sword. I do it. Bechenek is strangulation. I was going to explain later how they do it. Rav Shimon says, straight from the skila, chenek beherek. Do mitzvahs on the skull. Okay, now the Gemara the Mishnah concludes, says this is the mitzvah of skila. In other words, before this Mishnah we had in the previous chapter, we had a whole discussion of how stoning was done. They took him to a second floor, they threw him off, they threw a stone on him, all of that. So that's the then. Now we're going to start after this. We're going to start explaining the next term, which is the straight. Yeah, it's going to be in 2 pages. Okay, now there's a machlekes Tanakam and Rav Shimon. Shimon is Rav Shimon. Which punishment is worse, stoning or burning? Shimon puts burning first. That's the worst. And the Tanakhama says stoning is first. That's the worst. What's the difference? Which one's the worst? If it says if someone is guilty of 2 punishments, we always give them the stricter one. We give him the one that's worse. If he's supposed to get both, give him the stricter one. Because in the stricter one is included the other one, right? So it's going to be a machlekes here between Rav Shimon and the Tanakama. Someone is guilty of both. What he's going to get? He's going to get skila, or is he going to get straight? Tanakama says skila, Rav Shimon says straight. Amar Rava. There's also a difference, by the way, between tenek and herek, strangulation and the sword. The Gemara is going to we have to be followed. Amar Rav Schreir, Amar Rav Huna. Rav says the name of Rav Schreir, the name of Rav Huna. Whenever the Mishnah gives us a list, the list is always not significant. The order is never significant, with the exception of the 7 detergents that are used to clean off dam nida. Otherwise, when it gives a list, the order is insignificant. You could have said it in any. You can't say them all at the same time. So it's an order. Ditnan, as it was taught in the Mishnah. Okay, this is the exception. This order of this Mishnah is very significant. Now I'm starting Mishnah. If you want to know if it's really blood, you have to put it through certain detergents. If the detergent removes the blood, then it's real blood. If it doesn't remove it, then it was ink. It's something else, beet juice. I don't know, but it's not. It wasn't blood. Okay, so what's the difference if it's blood? It's just going to be tamei as a neither, if the cloth is tamei, etc. What are the 7 detergents? First detergent, hey, how are you? First one is Reik Tafel. We're on page. I don't know which volume it is.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's still the first. Yeah, the first one goes to
no, but he's in the second one.
No, it's the first. The first one. The first goes to
oh, that's the end of the thing.
Oh. So is it saying that if the stain comes out, then it's not dam nida?
Opposite. If it comes out, it's dam nida.
If it comes out, it's dam nida, but it's important to do it in this order.
Yeah. It's only if you do it in this order. If you do it in another order, it doesn't prove anything. If it doesn't come out, it doesn't prove that it's not dam nida. Because you didn't do it in the right order. Okay, so what are the 7 detergents? Oh, no. Yeah. So the let's see if I have a napkin.
No,
don't
only,
rub it, don't rub it.
no. Push it on there.
It's just water. Yamsuf, right? Okay.
Perfect person.
So let's go through the detergents. Break tuffle. The first one is a type of saliva, and this type of saliva is where the person didn't eat anything from the night before, and then he has the saliva. Tuffle actually means bland. It means over here that he has no other flavors in his mouth. Okay. The next one is make recent. This is beans that were chewed up, and so in other words, you have to put it through these detergents. This cloth that has a blood stain on it. The first detergent that you have to put it through is the saliva. Second one is the chewed up beans. Then meraglayim, this is urine. I think you have to leave it until it gets very smelly. Has ammonia in it, right? It's a cleanser. You wouldn't think so, but it turns out that it's a cleanser. Netter, how do they translate netter? They just say netter, yeah, that's what our school does. What does the Quran say? The Quran usually has a...
And then here it says, this is
What is it?
earth extract.
Earth extract?
That's what they say.
Okay.
Are we in the Mishnah?
No, we're about 10 lines down. Okay, virus is a soap. I don't know what exactly. It's a grass that they used for soap. Camellia. Do they tell you what camellia is? Rashi doesn't know. Maybe the Quran knows.
Article says it's unclear. It's a
Unclear.
white substance that we use for bathing and laundering, and it was named after the island of Comoros.
Oh,
In the ancients.
it's named after the island of Comoros. It's a white substance, according to the Quran. It says Yonatan. And then the Ashlach, or maybe it's the Ashlach. What is that? It says Rashi says it's something that you find in the holes of in the hollow of a pearl. Ocean pearls. They use that. Okay, whatever the case is, you have to do it in this specific order. First, you put this on, first you put that on. You know when they give you ingredients for something, then they tell you bake for 20 minutes. And this one says first this order, then you do this, then you do that. Okay. Sunny safe. You read further in that Mishnah Nida, it says, Yaviran, Shlika Sidran. Let's say you put it on not in order. Shivastan Kechad, or you did all together. You mix all of the detergents together. You make one thing, 7 in 1. They sell it in the store, right? Nothing. You didn't test to see if it's blood. Okay, whatever the case is, this is what Rav Sfeira wanted to tell us, that usually when the Gemara tells us a list, it doesn't really care about the order, but there's an exception. That exception is this case with the detergent. Rav Papa Saba Mishmei the Rav, he says, 1 second. What about our Mishnah? Our Mishnah says Skila Sveik Hereg Bechenek. And then Midaka Maflag Reb Shimon argues. He says Shreika Skila Chenek Behereg. Obviously, obviously because it's a specific order. That's why they're arguing about the order. It means the order is significant. Not that they have to do each one, but it means that the list of them is significant. That the one that's first is the strictest. The Idach. What is the first opinion hold? How does the first opinion explain the machlekes and say that the order doesn't matter? Mar explains, of course he accepts the order. There's a machlekes. What he meant was that when do we say that the order doesn't matter? That's only in the case of where there's no machlekes. If there's a machlekes, then the order matters. Because you see the order matters. They're arguing about it. Rav Papa says, also the order of things on Yom Kippur. The Tanana was started in the Mishnah. Muramala say that all of the activities of Yom Kippur, they're set in order. If one of them was done before the other one, they also like to meet into anything. So we see here's another exception here to this rule that when there's a list, usually it doesn't matter what order you do. But by this thing, by the Seder of Yom Kippur, the order matters. The other opinion didn't say that Yom Kippur mattered. What do they say? It says Ahu Chumra Ba'al. The way to explain this is like this. The order matters not because the order matters. The order matters because everything matters. Because it's Yom Kippur. Because Yom Kippur is so strict, whatever we say, you have to do exactly. Not because this is important, more important than that. It's because it's Yom Kippur. But when it comes to the other things, the order is actually matters in the intrinsically it matters. This one has to come before that. But this is only matters because Yom Kippur everything matters. Rabbi Yeshua says, this is a friend of Rav Papa, right? Seder Tamid, also the order of the Tamid. Tani Allah, still say the Tamid. It says clearly this is the order of the Tamid. It means the way they brought the sacrifice. That's significant. If you do it out of order, it sounds like it's not going to be good, right? It's significant. Idach, the other opinion says Hula Mitzvah Ba'alma. That just says that you should do it like that. Good, but it's not ma'akiv. It doesn't stop the fulfillment of the mitzvah. So Rav Schreier was talking about where the order, if you don't do it in the proper order, then it's not good. It's not valid. You're saying it's still valid. Okay, now the Gemara goes on to when Rav Schreier says that the order doesn't matter. What was he really referring to? When they serve cake, they serve dessert. So the host says, "Does it like chocolate or vanilla?" You say the order doesn't matter, right? Yeah. But anyway, over here,
stoning, burning, kill. Like, what does this go from worse to less severe, or from most severe to less?
Most severe.
Most severe first.
Yeah. Okay, what was he referring to when he said the order doesn't matter? He says lafukim mitzvahs chalitza. When it comes to chalitza, the order doesn't matter. Literally, the order doesn't matter. You can do it anyway. Either way, it's still going to be valid. It's an sort of a mission. Mitzvahs chalitza. The mitzvah of chalitza goes the following way. If him and the woman, which is the widow of the deceased brother, come to Bestin, they give him advice. The advice is, if they're close in age, we tell them to do yibum. If they're not close in age, they say, you don't know what you're getting into. You should do chalitza. Maybe right now it looks good, but you wait 10 years, it's not going to be, you won't be so happy with it. So you do chalitza. They give them a proper advice, marriage advice.
Thanks. Yeah. How are you doing? Anything? Yeah. Okay. One of the stories. You should write it. Can you scroll for us before you?
Okay, so the Gemara Tishnema, as it says in the pasuk, with Karli is the elders of the city call him, but Dibroi love, and they speak to him. But he Imeris, and she says, "Mine Yavami, the Gaimer, that the Yavam refuses." Who Imer, and he says, he says, "I don't want to take her." That's how they did the chalitza. But Lashon HaKodesh, and they spoke in Hebrew. There's a Gemara Saita that says that certain things need to be done in Hebrew. When it comes to davening, you're allowed to daven in any language. There are certain things that need to be done in the original Hebrew. Like the chalitza has to be done in Hebrew.
You have to in Hebrew.
No, you can say the bracha in English. We don't do any communal things in English. Because if someone davens to them, we don't do it in English. You can do it in English. If he davens privately, you can do it in English. But you shouldn't leave the service. You don't do any public things. But that's not, from the law. So you can daven in English, you can bench in English, you can do all of that in English. But certain things need to be done in Hebrew. You have to actually practice the Hebrew. And one of them is chalitza. So, the Niksha Yavamtai a love lane as Canaan. The Yavam, the Yavama comes in front of this Canaan. And she takes off his shoe. She spits it at him, or in front of him, not at him, in front of him. It has to be spit that the judges can see. And she responds and she says, so you should do to the man that refuses to build a house in Israel, right? Nikrish might be Israel, and this house is now called Beis Chalitza, the house of person whose shoe was removed. That's the Chalitza. Rabbi Yehuda says, Mitzvah Chalitza, Kaira, B'Kaira. She reads a sentence and then he reads a sentence. Chaylat says, she takes off her shoe, very kekes. She spits, B'Kaira, and then she reads. We asked him, Mike Kamashlam, what are you trying to say, Rabbi Yehuda? Rabbi Yehuda is an Amira, it's a student of Rav, it's a student of Shmuel. What's he telling me? Masnisani, that's exactly the Mishnah. No, Hakamashlam is coming to tell me, mitzvah hachi. When Rabbi Yehuda just says, mitzvah's chalitza, what he meant was that's the mitzvah. But if you don't do it that way, there's no problem. When Rav Shloira said that when there's a list, the order doesn't matter, it's referring to chalitza. Okay. Brisa that says exactly the same thing. Whether she removed the shoe before she spat, or she spat before she removed the shoe. Masha Asa, what she did is done, and that's considered the mitzvah that she fulfilled the chalitza work.
Rabbi, you said the Torah itself tells the Beis Din to give the couple advice not to get married. Seems like
it learns it from the elders call him and speak to him.
It seems unfair that now this person's house has a bad name if the Beis Din is telling him to do it.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Here's something she's cursing.
Okay, I don't know. Maybe I would like to say that that's only said when he doesn't follow their advice. When in other cases, it doesn't say that. Okay, now Lafuke, another case where the order doesn't matter. Lafuke Rad Tanan taught in the Mishnah. In Yuma, it says Kohen Gadol Mishamish B'Shmeina Kaleb. Kohen Gadol wears 8 types of clothing. The head yait in a regular Kohen, he wears 4 types of clothing. What are the 4? Sinus, which is a gown. If Nasayim is pants, Nefes is the hat. The Avnei is the gartel, the belt. The Kohen Gadol has another 4. Cheshen, which is the breastplate. Ephod is an apron. Me'il is like this larger gown. The tzitz is the plate that goes on the far end. The Tanya, it was taught in a brisa. How do you know that the first thing that goes on is the pants? Pants goes on the flesh. Obviously, there's no other clothing other than the pants. Means the pants go on first. Tana, my time why is the pants put on before the gown? Because the pasuk says so. The Kro my time is why does the pasuk say so? Okay, 1 second. I'm sorry, I didn't read this right. My time why does it say Ksinus first? Why does the Brisa say Ksinus first? If you don't put on the Ksinus, you don't put on the gown first, put on the pants first. So it says because the pasuk says Ksinus first. So the Mishnah also said it first. Why does the pasuk say it first? Right? You're gonna keep going with this. Like it's gonna get an explanation somewhere. Mishum my time active. Why does the pasuk say it first? Because there's an advantage to the Ksinus, and it covers the whole body. adifalite. So that's why that's better. We consider it better. The fact that it's such a good covering, that's why it says it first. But really, that's not what's put on first. What's put on first is the pants.
So it seems like what we learned is sometimes the order matters and sometimes it doesn't.
Right. Right. The Karastir Stiebel used to be a Karastir. You know Karastir? It's a like a Bishaya Karastir. The Karastir Stiebel in Crown Heights was right across from 770, and they had a mitzvah there. And the Rebbe went there sometimes. And the Rebbe used that mitzvah. So the son of the Karastir Rebbe, he said, I think I heard this from him direct. He said that he one time watched the Rebbe getting dressed. Oh wow! And he said the Rebbe put on his pants first. He went to his father, the Karastir Rebbe. That's not what it says in Shulchan Aruch. Supposed to put on the shirts first. So he said that the Rebbe gets dressed like the Kohen Gadol.
That was something.
That's what he said.
About the order in which someone.
Yeah, usually this goes against the Shulchan Aruch. I mean, it's the Shulchan Aruch speaks to everyone else. This is the Kayan. The Kayan gets dressed different.
It depends if you're tucking your shirt in or not.
It depends what?
If you're tucking your shirt in,
Oh, if you're tucking your shirt in.
put your shirt on first, you tuck it in.
Okay. They asked him how many times did the Rebbe dip in the mikveh. He was watching. He said it was hard to tell. Couldn't tell because the Rebbe was moving his hand also. So we couldn't tell if he was coming up. No. Because if you stick out a finger, it's considered like you're not all the way under. It's going again. But we couldn't tell. Okay, skila streifa. So now we go to the order. The first one is the stoning. The second one is burning. Okay, the first one lists the stoning. That means stoning is the more significant, it's the more harsher punishment. Then comes burning. So let me just tell you what this Gemara is going to do. The Gemara is going to compare skila to streifa and say that skila is stricter. Then it's going to compare skila to hereg, to the sword, say skila stricter. Then it's going to compare skila to chenek, say skila stricter. Then the Gemara is going to go to streifa. Now streifa, I already know, is secondary to skila, so it's not going to discuss it. But it's going to do streifa to hereg. It's going to say streifa is stricter. It's going to streifa to chenek, the strangulation, streifa stricter. Then it's going to go to hereg. Now I already know that skila and streifa are also both stricter than hereg. So hereg and chenek, which one is stricter? And it's right. You get how it's like it's working its way down. Let's try. Skila chamura misreifa, skila stricter than streifa. Shkeinita lemagada falay, but alay but avodas kalilam, avodas zara.
This would be good for me.
They have this thing, this test where you're testing someone's priorities. They say, like they do this in businesses. Like, what's more important, the customer this or the product quality, or like what's on your priority list? So they have a list and they put a number on each one. They say, no, you're not doing it properly. You have to do each one to all of them. You do each one to all of them. Anyway, that's what we're doing. Otherwise, you're not really whatever. So, why is skila stricter? We know it's stricter because the worst averas get skila, get stoning. What's the worst avera? Someone that curses God, or someone that worships idols. Oh, okay, that's the biggest avera. It says my chumrah. Why is that so strict? It's such came place with the other baker because he's stretching out his hand in the basic premise of Judaism. Worshipping an idol. What says 1 second? Adarabba. Streifa chamura. Getting burnt is much stricter. Why? She's into because a bas kayan, a daughter of a kayan that commits adultery, she gets streifa. That's the worst of it. Imagine a bas kayan. She's embarrassing her father's house and everything. That's the worst. My chumrah, why is that so strict?
Isn't that when she was like, Nara, I think it was.
Slow down.
Nara, Amurasa. I don't know if that's something else. We're going to discuss if she's a Arusa or Nesua. She's married or betrothed. I'm saying that's going to come. That's much like that. But so 1 second. So why is it so strict? Okay, Michalel says she embarrasses her father's house. I'm a little surprised at this Gemara. I mean, I know this family is important, but the Gemara is comparing it to cursing God or worshiping idols. And there's a Havamina here to say that embarrassing your father's house is worse than worshiping idols.
And that's the example that we had before, that it was the girl, I think like 12 and a half, like betrothed, and then she did
Yeah, but does that answer the question? Oh.
It says her Avera is just as bad as embarrassing her father.
No, her Avera is embarrassing the father because people are going to say that like what type of parents raised a child like this, that had a child, so she's embarrassing the parents.
Is this about Kivudov, or is this about Kivudov, or is it about blemishing the kahuna?
I'm not sure.
But wasn't her the original name wasn't his translation and then it's wasn't the original like its translation and then because it was a possible this punishment.
The Gemara is going to get into that. But first, before you jump into that, the Gemara is suggesting that this is more severe than idolatry.
Then Sorer Morer is probably literally embarrassing. Pretty much all kind of.
Right. Well, how does Ben Sorer get killed? Does anyone remember? It's going to come up on the next page. Okay, Kasabri Rabbanan Nesua Yoitzel Streifa B'lei Arusa. Gemara explains like this. Gemara says that what we're doing here is we're saying that a Bas Kayin is going to get a stricter punishment than a Bas Yisrael. Yeah, Bas Kayin, the daughter of a Kayin, is going to get a stricter punishment. Okay, that's the understanding. Well, I have to tell you that there's some halachas here that we need to know in order for this to make sense. According to if a regular girl commits adultery, if she's only betrothed, she's not married, she's betrothed, then she gets killed. That's about as strict as you can get according to this opinion, right? That's strict. If she's a Bas Kayin, according to this opinion now, she also gets killed. Okay, same thing. There's no difference. Let's say she gets killed. Both cases. Both Bas Yisrael and the Bas Kayin. If she's married, if she's a Bas Yisrael, then she gets 10. If she is a Bas Kayin, she gets straight.
Straight was
bird. So now what just happened here is that if
that's a different thing. When it's engagement, it's the same. But
yeah,
after marriage.
So what we're doing now is we're saying that a Nesua is different than a Narusa by a Bas Kayin. First of all, a Bas Kayin is different than a Bas Yisrael. Bas Yisrael only gets chenek, strangulation, which is one of the lesser, or maybe the least of the punishments. And Bas Kayin gets a stricter punishment, which is straight. But now I have a difference between an Arusa and a Nesua. betrothed and married. Which one is worse? The Gemara is saying now that if she's betrothed, it's worse. Because betrothed, she's embarrassing her father's house. Once she's married, doesn't go play back on her father. It's just play. It just shows on her husband maybe, but even not on her husband. So she's not she's a bad wife. But it doesn't show that about her parents. So what shows on her parents only if she's still betrothed. So now we have to look at the difference between in a bas and what's the difference between an arusa and a nesua. We say the arusa gets skila, the nesua gets reifa. Obviously, the arusa is worse, skila is worse. Shmamina skila chamor. Okay, Rashi takes out a few words of it. So far, what the Gemara explained is why skila is more strict than reifa. We explained it based on the bas kayin gets the more strict punishment when she's betrothed than when she's married. Now we go to the next comparison. Skila chamor misayat. Stoning is worse than getting killed by the sword. We said already, but exactly, because someone that curses God or worships idols gets stoned. Gemara says, "My chumrah." Why is it stricter? Kedamra, because like you said, that's like a major punishment. That's a major crime, right? A violation. It's against. It's good for baker, right? Especially at the other baker. So it's a basic Jewish premise.
Like embarrassing the person. The other ones include that also.
What do you mean stoning is embarrassing the person? With the clothing?
Yeah, like there was a whole machlekes, covered, uncovered, and all that stuff.
Yeah, but they never unclothed in order to embarrass. They unclothed in order to make the stoning right. Well, that wasn't an embarrassment. Now the question: would they rather die slowly or get embarrassed? But I wasn't unclothed because they wanted to embarrass. And that wasn't part of it. But on the contrary, it was to help them die easier. They unclothed them. Otherwise, see too much padding. Take off the thick clothing. Okay, the Kedama, like we said, the Gemara says Hadarab. On the contrary, Sayef Chamer. The sword is more strict. If there's a city that it's adultery, the whole city, so they kill the city by the sword. That's quite a serious punishment. The sword must be the strictest punishment. Where it says, "My chumrah, why is it so strict?" But you see that we really are really out to get. We even burn all their money in the center of the city. So if you're destroying their money, giving them a death penalty, we're probably giving them a strict death penalty. It says, one second. It says, what's worse? To be the one that convinced the missionary that tells people to worship idols, or the victim of that, where the one that gets convinced to worship idols? Who's worse? The missionary is worse. So it says, obviously the missionary, he's getting other people to do it. Tanya was taught in the Bryce, that those guys that go and convince others, they get skila. So who's worse? The one that's convincing others to worship idols, or the one that are convinced to worship idols? The one that's convincing is worse. He gets skila, the other one gets kind of obviously skila is a bigger punishment. Okay, next. Stoning is stricter than chenek and strangulation. Exactly because we said, who gets stoning? The one that curses God or worships idols. Why from the why is it so strict? As we said before, punch the other baker. He's stretching out his hand in the basic tenet of Judaism. Other rabbi, the Gemara says, strangulation is strict. If someone bruises, hits his father or mother, and bruises them, he gets strangulation. Actually, the interesting thing is, anytime the Torah says death, it doesn't specify, it's referring to strangulation. So, But look at this. If someone that hits his father and his mother, that should be the strictest. But says, my Shomra, why is that so strict? Because their honor is compared to the honor of God. The Gemara says, no. You have to look at it like this. Remember, on this chart you have 4 spots on this chart. You have Arusa, Baskai, and Bas Yisrael, Skila, trust, betrothed, commits adultery. Then you have Nesua, married, Baskai and Bas Yisrael. What do they get? Baskai gets Streifa, Bas Yisrael gets Chenek. The last Gemara, we compared the Streifa to the Skila. From the Nesua to the Arusa, we said the Arusa is worse. In our Gemara, we're doing in the Nesua, we're doing Streifa to Chenek. Bas Yisrael, Bas Kayin to Bas Yisrael. That's our comparison. Which one is worse? The Bas Kayin or the Bas Yisrael? The Bas Kayin. The Bas Yisrael gets Chenek. The Bas Yisrael gets Chenek. The Bas Kayin gets Streifa. So, okay, so 1 second, no. On the sewer. Oh, no. I went it the wrong way again. You have to go from the from in the Bas Yisrael itself, from Arusa to Nesua. Who was worse? The Arusa was worse, right? The Arusa is Skila, and the Arusa Bas Yisrael is Skila. The Arusa of the Nesua of a Bas Yisrael is Chenek. So who's worse? The betrothed or the married? He said the betrothed is a bigger crime because it embarrasses the parents. So you see that Skila is worse than Chenek. You can go different ways with this. But okay. Straight for Chamor Misag. Now we're holding. We did already Skila to all of them. Skila compared to Streifa, Skila compared to Herrick, Skila compared to Chenek. Oh, I'm in trouble. Phone now is. Just give me 1 moment. 1 moment. My phone died and the battery died. I can think with it. When they will see it, right now. Okay, sorry. Sorry about that. Okay. So we're holding, we did Shrefa Chamor Misayef? No, that's what we're holding. Burning is stricter than the sword. We obviously, because it's a Baskayan gets a strict punishment, right? Baskayan gets strict punishment. So then she gets the burning. Why is it so strict? She embarrasses her father's house. Other Abba, Sayef Chamor. Getting killed by the sword is stricter. Why? Because because that's how the people of that city were killed. So it's my chumrah. Why is that so strict? Because when the people of the city that worship idols, you have to destroy their property as well. Okay, so now the Gemara does this interesting thing. It says Nemar Avia Beskila Benemar Avia Besreik. By the Arusa that commits adultery, it says the word she embarrasses her father's house. By the Baskayan that commits adultery, it says that also she embarrasses her father's house. And over there it's straight. So now I have the word Avia by an Arusa that gets skila, and I have the word Aviha, which means her father, by the Baskayan, the daughter of Cain, that gets straight. Ma Aviyomer Beskila, Skila Chamor Misayeh. Take a look at this. When it came to a comparison between skila and sayed, stoning and getting killed by the sword, who was worse? We said that the stoning was worse because we did a comparison between the one that's convincing others to worship idols versus the people that are convinced to worship idols. Who's worse? The missionaries. They're convincing others. So they get skila. And the ones from the city get decided. Okay, so if when it came once it says aviha, when it says aviha once, that's referring to skila, and I know that skila is stricter than sayef because I did that comparison with the people that convince others versus the convinced. Af aviha amar b'sreifa, but also says aviha by sreifa. I'm going to say that sreifa chamor misayeh. It's a very complicated gezerah shabbat that. It says here avia, and by that avia, that the punishment of avia was stricter than sword. So it says avia here. So this, what the punishment of this avia, which is shreifa, is stricter than sword. Okay. Shreifa chamor mechanik. Now remember, all of this is just if someone is deserving two punishments, it's going to get the stricter one. That's why we need to know this. Shreifa is stricter than chenek. Chenek is strangulation. Why? Because a Baskayan gets reifa. So my chumrah. How do you know it's stricter? Kedama, like we said before, she embarrasses her father's house. Adarabba, chenek chamer. Maybe not. Maybe chenek, which is strangulation, is a stricter punishment because the sin is stricter because someone that injures his father or his mother gets chenek. That's stricter than a woman that commits adultery. Injures his father. My chumrah, why is it so strict? Because honoring the parents is compared to honoring Shem. Okay. Now we go this way. So far we did a comparison between in the Baskayan between Arusa and the Nesua, right? Then we did a comparison between the Bas Yisrael between an Arusa and Nesua. Now we do in the Nesua a comparison between a Baskayan and a Bas Yisrael in the Nesua when they're married. The Bas Yisrael gets chenek, and the Baskayan gets streifa. Streifa is obviously stricter because the Baskayan is a stricter sin, and the streifa versus chenek. That's an easy answer. Shma mina streifa chamor misa. Streif chamur. Period. Obviously, streif is stricter than chenek. Who got chenek was the married Bas Yisrael that commits adultery. And now we have our last comparison here. It says Sayef Chomer May Sayef Chomer Mechenek. The sword is stricter than strangulation. Because how do we know that? Because the sin which incurs the punishment of getting killed by the sword is given to the people of the city of the Erdidachas who all worship idols. Says my Chomer, how do you know that that's so strict? Because he actually destroyed their money. It's got to be strict. Says Adarabba, Chenek Chomer. Chenek is stricter. Because that's given to someone that kills his father and his mother. Says my Chomer, how do you know that that's strict? It doesn't have the patience to spell it out. But it's because it's compared to the honor of Hashem. Where it says, no. When you worship idols, that's obviously the worst. Okay.
It's worse than embarrassing parents.
Yeah.
Because I feel like
Let's leave it over here.
I heard
All right.
there's a famous author.
I need to get. I am not able to end the Zoom. I need everyone just to leave because I can't. I don't have my phone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye.
Okay.
Bye.